I slammed the butt of my heavy shotgun into a rioter's jaw with a sickening crunch. He goes down hard, disappearing into the sea of desperate, angry bodies surging through the square. The crowd's roar is a living thing, thousands of voices raised in fury, echoing off the hive city's towering hab blocks. Debris and broken glass rain through the ash-choked air. Another day, another riot in the Emperor's glorious Imperium. It's barely dawn, and already I'm up to my knees in trouble. Welcome to my morning, the daily grind of an Adeptus Arbites Judge. Romantic, isn't it? If you expected ceremonial parades and dignified court sessions, you've been reading the wrong pamphlets. Out here, law and order isn't a polished marble hall. It's a gutter fight in the filth of a hive slum, a desperate struggle to remind 1 trillion souls that the Emperor's word is absolute. And it always falls to us, the judges and arbitrators, to hammer that lesson home. My name is Judge Varys Drax. I am the law, at least as much law as this miserable corner of the galaxy will ever see. For 15 years, I've worn the black carapace armor of the Adeptus Arbites, bearing the golden aquila of the Lex Imperialis on my shoulder guard. 15 years of cracking skulls, chasing heretics through the underhive, reciting the unyielding commandments of the Book of Judgment by heart. 15 years, and the hive still finds new ways to surprise me with its capacity for depravity. Today's special feature: a full-fledged riot over water rations in the mid-hive market district. Local enforcers, the magistratum, tried to contain it. They were swept aside like vermin. This isn't a job for tin-pot hive police with stub guns and riot batons. When things go truly bad, when the herd forgets its place, that's when the Arbites get the call. We arrived in force at first light, rolling out of the precinct fortress in our armored carriers, sirens howling, lights flashing through the toxic drizzle. The crowd was already at critical mass. Thousands of hab-dwellers jammed shoulder to shoulder, chanting and shoving at the iron gates of the Administratum Distributary. The fools were actually attempting to storm an Administratum ration storehouse, as if breaking in would make water spring from dry rock. I waded in alongside my squad, shield raised against the hail of bricks and bottles. A makeshift Molotov ignited off my suppression shield, splashing promethium fire across the ceramite plating. I barely felt the heat. My visor display merely flashed an alert about surface temperature. The rioters' faces were wild, gaunt with hunger and thirst, twisted by desperation into something feral. They screamed curses about the governor, the administratum, the emperor himself. I catch fragments in the cacophony. We're starving. Thieves. Scum. It's always the same, a chorus of the aggrieved. Innocent or guilty, it hardly matters now. Innocence is irrelevant, I mutter to myself, voicing the old Arbites adage as I shove forward. An autoquill in some distant archive will note the context as a crowd control action. But let's call it what it is, a brutal, blunt force lesson in obedience. To my flanks, arbitrators in heavy riot gear lay into the mob with crackling shock mauls. The air smells of ozone and sweat. We move as a line of black-armored juggernauts, pushing forward step by step. My boots crunch over broken plastic and spent shell casings. A woman swings a length of pipe at my helmet. I catch it on my shield and send her sprawling with a backhand. Another rioter lunges, brandishing a rusty machete, screaming incoherently. I fire a single round from my shotgun. The recoil is a satisfying kick against my shoulder. The report a thunderclap that momentarily drowns the crowd's roar. The slug takes him center mass, and he crumples, the blade clattering at my feet. At that, a momentary gap opens in the throng as the nearest troublemakers recoil from the fate of their friend. Some scramble back, others freeze in shock, giving us the opening we need. "Advance! Disperse the rabble!" I vox, my voice amplified through the helmet's grill. The black wall of Arbites presses onward. Behind us follow the loader servitors and fire teams, hosing down smoldering wreckage and dragging stunned prisoners into armored vans. I see a youth, barely 16 standard, raising a homemade slug pistol at Proctor Hale's back. Before I can even shout a warning, Hale swivels and puts a bolt round through the kid's arm. The gun clatters away along with whatever remained of the boy's elbow. He howls and collapses. Hale moves on without a second glance. No pity, no hesitation. We're not here to coddle misguided youth. We're here to enforce the Emperor's peace. Within minutes, the riot's spine breaks. What was moments ago an unmovable mass of anger becomes a scattering mob of panicked figures. Once the ringleaders and the boldest have fallen, the rest lose their nerve. They always do. Now the square is littered with debris, blood, and the moans of the injured. My heart is pounding from exertion. The rebreather filters in my helmet hiss as they struggle to supply enough oxygen after the brawl. We herd the remaining protesters apart, driving them into side alleys or down on their bellies. Restraints zip tie around wrists. Boot heels keep heads firmly on the ground. A few arbitrators take quick statements from the scarce handful of magistratum officers who stuck around. Those locals look at us with a mix of relief and terror. We're on the same side, technically, but they know better than to get in our way. I step over unconscious bodies and shattered plastic crates, surveying the aftermath. My armor's autosenses highlight weapons among the debris. Clubs, broken bottles, a few stub guns kicked away. The Administratum's iron gate is a twisted wreck, pried halfway open by the press of the mob. Beyond it, the storehouse interior gapes dark and silent, and I can see huddled clerks and functionaries peering out from behind storage pallets. Cowards. As my squad secures the site, I catch sight of one of the riot leaders, a scrawny man with a voxcaster still strapped to his chest, used to amplify the crowd's chants. He's bleeding from a scalp wound, but alive. Two arbitrators haul him to his knees between them. His eyes have the wild fervor I've seen 100 times. A true believer, convinced his cause justifies all this. Maybe it was righteous anger at ration cuts today. Often it's something more insidious. Gang feuds, narco distribution rights, or the warm-up to a heretical cult gathering. I've seen mundane protests turn into something else without warning. This one might just be hunger and discontent, or it might not. "On your knees," I order the captive. One of my arbitrators forces him down. I loom over him, my shotgun barrel resting against the side of his face. The acrid stink of fear rolls off him, mixing with the sweat and soot in the air. "Name." He spits blood, glaring up at me. We just wanted water. Our children are dying," he snarls. They always try to make it about justice, as if we're the oppressors. There's only one justice in the Imperium, and it sure as hell isn't decided by street mobs. "You've been judged guilty of sedition and violent insurrection under Lex Imperialis," I intone formally, as if I were behind a judge's bench instead of in a trash-strewn street. My voice comes out low and even, amplified just enough to be heard clearly despite the helmet. The sentence is death, carried out immediately. Emperor, have mercy on your soul, because I won't. Without ceremony, I pull the trigger. The roar of my shotgun echoes off the enclosing hive walls as the riot leader's head disappears in a red mist. The report fades, leaving only a ringing in my ears and the distant wail of enforcer sirens as the magistratum finally creeps back now that the deed is done. Somewhere behind me, I hear one of the younger arbitrators whistle under his breath at my summary execution of the ringleader. Perhaps he's shocked. More likely, he's impressed. I don't particularly care which. My duty isn't to worry about the morality of it. My duty is to uphold the lex and make examples where needed. The law is cruel. It has to be. Mercy in this hive only breeds anarchy. Collect the rest for processing, I say, gesturing to the line of cuffed rioters being assembled. A few will face a Hablock's collective punishment, maybe forced labor in the manufactorums, or a few lashes for being caught up in the chaos. Many more will simply vanish into the depths of our precinct cells for a few weeks until their spirits break. Maybe they'll learn obedience by the time we spit them back out. If not, we'll be seeing them again on another ugly morning. Recidivists often end up in a mass grave or lobotomized into servitors. A bullet to the skull is honestly kinder. The other arbitrators begin loading the detained into our transports. A couple of enforcers from the local magistratum hesitantly approach me, their cheap flak armor and tin helmets making them look like children playing soldier next to my towering armored frame. One, a sergeant judging by his tattered uniform markings, gives a clumsy salute. "Thank you, sir. I mean, Judge," he babbles. He's young, eyes wide at the carnage we delivered in mere minutes. "We lost control. They overwhelmed us. If you hadn't—" He trails off, staring at the headless corpse of the riot leader and at my still-smoking weapon. I simply nod. "Next time, contain it faster," I say coldly. "If we have to come out again for this sector, I'll be reviewing your precinct's performance and its leadership." My implication is clear. The enforcer pales, nods quickly. Their own superiors will likely face severe penalties, perhaps even an Arbites investigation, for allowing this flare-up. Possibly a few will be made examples of to appease the governor and the law. Not my problem how they handle their failings, as long as they know we're watching. With that, I turn away. The sky above is a dim rust red, the sun a faint glow through layers of smog that never clear. Another glorious morning in this hive, whatever forsaken name this place calls itself. To me, it's just another hive, another den of vice and disobedience that needs a firm hand. We Arbites are outsiders by design. I was posted here from halfway across the sector. No ties to the locals, no interest beyond enforcing the law. Perhaps that's why we can do what must be done without hesitation. To the people of this hive, we're figures of fear and cold authority, not neighbors or kin. And that's exactly how it has to be. I'm about to signal our units to wrap up when one of my arbitrators calls out, "Sir, Judge Drax over here." His voice crackles in my earpiece. I turn and stride toward Arbitrator Severin, who is kneeling over a pile of discarded plastic containers near the edge of the square. He stands to attention as I approach, holding something out for me to see. It's a crude satchel charge, a homemade explosive by the look of it, jury-rigged from mining detonators or perhaps stolen PDF munitions. Its detonator light is thankfully unlit, the device intact. Nearby, on the ground, are two more stubby cylinders with wires and blasting caps. Throne of Terror. These aren't things starving citizens typically carry to a peaceful protest. I feel a slow burn of anger in my gut, colder than the riot fury from moments ago. This wasn't just hunger-fueled hysteria. Someone armed these people. Found them on a few of the arrested, Judge, Severin reports, his tone grim. Up close, I can see a hairline crack on his helmet from a lucky thrown brick, but he seems unfazed. They hadn't managed to set them off? Praise the throne, or we'd have had a bloody mess. I nod, taking one of the improvised bombs in hand. It's a simple design, but effective enough to blow apart a crowd or a precinct door. Who smuggled these in? The mob? Unlikely. This smells like something else, an invisible hand pushing ignorant fools to become terrorists. My eyes narrow behind my visor. Log it and get our Verispex techs to analyze the make. I want to know origin, chemical signature, any stamp or fragment that can be traced, I order. The Verispex are our forensic adepts. They can glean facts from residue that even a confessing criminal might misrepresent. Severin nods and carefully signals over a pair of tech adepts in dull red robes who had been waiting in the wings with the Medici units. They scurry forward with analysis tools humming. I step aside and let them work, turning my attention to the row of detainees kneeling under guard. Perhaps one of them knows something about these devices. More likely, they're just pawns, but one of them might squeal if pressed hard. I signal two arbitrators to haul up one of the more ragged-looking prisoners, a middle-aged man with soot-stained skin and frantic eyes. He's shaking and muttering prayers to the Emperor for mercy. Unlikely he'll find much of that here. I yank off my helmet, wanting him to see my face, or at least the hardened stare of the man who holds his fate. The polluted air hits my lungs, sour and metallic. My cropped black hair is damp with sweat against my forehead. I lock eyes with the prisoner. "Listen carefully," I say, voice low but carrying an edge that cuts through his babbling. "Where did you get the explosives? Who gave these to you?" His eyes dart to the side as if seeking an escape that isn't there. I don't know, my lord. I didn't want any part of that. Some men was passing them out. Said if the arbitrators come, to light it and throw. He gulps, throat bobbing. I just took it to protect my boy. Please, I never meant to hurt nobody. Men, what men? I snap, cutting off his sniveling. Names, faces. Who gave the order? I tighten my grip on his collar, the edges of his threadbare shirt twisting in my armored gauntlet. He trembles. I never saw him before. Outsiders, maybe. They came in a hover truck, dumped crates in the alley behind Granite Plaza 2 nights ago. They told our water committee that the gear was to help make the administratum listen. We thought they were on our side. I exchange a glance with Arbitrator Severin, who stands at my shoulder. This is new. Organized distribution of weapons to seditionists isn't your average under-hive gang activity. It reeks of conspiracy. Perhaps a noble house stirring the pot to embarrass a rival. Or something even worse, like a cult seeding chaos under cover of legitimate grievance. "Describe them," I order. The prisoner screws his eyes shut, trying to recall details. They wore hooded cloaks, brown or gray. One talked funny, like from off-world, maybe void-born accent. He had a high Gothic lilt, sounded educated. I didn't see much of his face. He had rebreather gear. But he paid us too. Gave the committee chairman a pouch of thrones, said more would come if we, put on a good show. He lets out a shuddering breath. "That's all I know. I swear by the Golden Throne." Money and weapons to incite a riot. Definitely not spontaneous. I suspect our concerned citizens were played like a fiddle, off-world instigators, or at least someone masquerading as such. The pieces aren't fitting neatly yet, but it's enough to start an investigation. I release the man with a shove, and he collapses to his knees, sobbing thanks and blubbering promises of cooperation. Disgusting. "Take him to the precinct for full interrogation," I instruct the arbitrators. Him and any others who looked like they were leading this circus. Isolate them. We'll shake more details out of their bones if we have to. The sobbing man wails as he's dragged off with the others, but I'm already moving on. My micro-bead crackles. It's Arbitrator Commander Ruth, my immediate superior at the precinct fortress. His voice is as dry and crackling as old parchment. "Judge Drax, status." "Riot contained, Commander," I report briskly. I wipe soot from my cheek with the back of a gauntlet as I speak. Multiple arrests, at least a dozen fatalities among the rioters, minor injuries on our side. We've discovered contraband explosives on scene, likely provided by unknown provocateurs. I'm bringing suspects in for interrogation. A pause. "Understood. Good work. Routh's tone never shows a hint of emotion, whether praising or condemning. Return to Precinct Fortress 17 with the detainees. The Arbites Marshal will want a report before second shift. I'll alert the chasteners to prepare interrogation cells. By your command, I reply. The link cuts out with a click. I roll my shoulders, the adrenaline of combat ebbing and the familiar weight of duty settling in. The immediate flames of unrest have been stomped out, but embers remain. Embers that hint at a larger fire smoldering unseen. This riot was not an isolated spark of desperation. Someone struck a match and tossed it into this powder keg on purpose, and I intend to find out who and why. I slide my helmet back on, sealing myself once more behind the impassive visor. Around me, my arbitrators are already moving with drill-perfect efficiency, rounding up the last of the evidence and prisoners. The trembling clerks and enforcers will have quite a mess to clean up here, but that's none of my concern now. We stride back to our waiting repressor transports, boots thudding on steel ramps as we load up. The detention cages in the transport clang shut on the prisoners. I take a last look at the ruined square through the vision slit as I climb into the lead vehicle. Dawn has broken fully now, pale light fighting through the chemical haze. It illuminates the devastation, and the red, double-headed eagle of the Arbites painted on our transport's side, spattered with grime, a symbol of order amid the chaos. As the doors slam shut and our convoy rumbles back towards the precinct fortress, I allow myself a hard, thin smile in the privacy behind my visor. Let's see how these conspirators like it when the Emperor's law comes knocking. My day has only just begun, and with the Emperor's blessing, by its end, I'll have the truth, along with a pile of new corpses or convicts to show for it. The precinct fortress looms before us as our convoy approaches. It rises out of the mid-hive sprawl like a gray slab of judgment, its adamantine walls crowned with razor wire and gilded aquila emblems. To the average citizen, it's a forbidding monolith they only whisper about, the place where people disappear to when they've crossed the Emperor's law. To me, it's home. We pass through the outer gates, heavy blast doors clanging shut behind us, sealing out the chaos of the city. Automated turrets track our vehicles briefly before the machine spirits recognize our transponder codes and stand down. Inside the courtyard, arbitrators and support personnel are already moving with drilled precision to offload prisoners and evidence. The detainees are yanked from the transports, still cuffed and hooded, and prodded toward the cell blocks amidst barked commands and the crackling of shock prods. The sounds of boots on plascrete and muffled groans echo off the high walls. I step out of the repressor's rear hatch and breathe in the familiar scent of the precinct. A mix of gun oil, ozone from power fields, and the faint tang of incense from the small shrine by the entrance. My boots ring on the ferrocrete. Removing my helmet, I clip it to my belt maglock. The air inside the fortress is filtered and cool, a blessed relief after the cloying hive air. For a moment I relish the quiet discipline here, so different from the bedlam outside. "Judge on deck," someone announces as I stride onto the muster floor. Arbitrators and clerks alike pause, snapping to attention or bowing their heads respectfully as I pass. I'm too focused to acknowledge them beyond a curt nod. Duty calls. Arbitrator Commander Routh intercepts me near the processing area. He's a tall, gaunt man, his face lined with decades of service. A crimson bionic eye glows faintly in his left socket, whirring as it refocuses on me. In the cool fluorescent lighting, his shaven scalp and scarred cheek give him the aspect of a skull. "Drax," he greets me with a brisk nod. No judge title. Routh dispenses with formalities when it's Arbites to Arbites. Report. "Riot suppressed," I say, matching his efficient tone. Other arbitrators hustle by, dragging prisoners to holding cells and stacking confiscated weapons on evidence trolleys. 57 arrests by initial count, possibly a dozen or more rioters dead on scene. We took no casualties. 3 arbitrators wounded minor. We recovered several improvised explosive devices distributed among the crowd. I gesture to the evidence bins where the Verispex adepts are already bagging the makeshift bombs and tagging them for analysis. 1 lead agitator executed on site for sedition. Interrogation of other detainees suggests outside influence. Unknown persons provided arms and funding to incite this riot. Routh's one organic eye narrows, while the red bionic lens irises tighter with a faint click. Outside provocateurs? Interesting. His tone remains even, but I detect a spark of anger beneath it. Nothing gets in Arbites blood up like the notion of someone deliberately stirring rebellion under our noses. Do we have identification on these suspects? Not yet, sir. Witness accounts from the crowd say the instigators were hooded, possibly off-world accents. They supplied the explosives and some monetary incentive. I fold my arms behind my back unconsciously at parade rest. We're checking local surveillance-picked feeds near the riot site and tracing the explosive materials. The Verispex will report soon. I also intend to personally interrogate the protest leaders we detained. One of them is a committee head who dealt with the suppliers directly. Routh gives a thin-lipped smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Very good. I want this investigated thoroughly and quickly. If someone thinks they can ignite sedition on our watch, we need to send a clear message. He glances over as a pair of chasteners in dark hooded excruciation robes shuffle by, escorting a prisoner to the lower levels. Use whatever methods are necessary to get names. But, he adds, voice dropping slightly, be mindful if this trail leads upward. We tread carefully if a hive noble or, throne forbid, an Imperial official is involved. We'll need concrete evidence before we act on that level. I incline my head. Even the Arbites can't just drag a high-born dignitary to the execution yard without ironclad proof. At least, not without causing a whole other kind of conflict. Understood. We'll get the evidence. Routh nods curtly. See that you do. I'm assigning an extra arbitrator to assist you. Arbitrator Sakara. He gestures, and I notice a figure standing a few paces back, at stiff attention. Sakara removes her helmet as she steps forward. She is younger than me, perhaps mid-20s standard, with close-cropped dark hair and sharp hazel eyes that shine with determined zeal. A faint bruise darkens her left cheek, probably from a lucky punch during the riot, but she holds herself rigidly upright, adrenaline and pride still evident in her posture. Sakara, you performed well in crowd control today, Routh addresses her. Now you'll assist Judge Drax in this investigation. Observe and follow his orders. This is a chance to learn how we dispense justice beyond the shield wall. Yes, sir, Sakara replies smartly. She casts a quick sidelong glance at me. I catch a flicker of excitement and perhaps lingering awe in her eyes. Emperor preserve us, a rookie's enthusiasm. Routh's gaze returns to me. Keep me apprised, Drax. The Marshal will expect a preliminary report by end of shift. With that, he turns on his heel and stalks off to oversee other operations, barking something at a clerk who nearly dropped a data slate of reports. I size up Sakara. She's fresh out of the Schola Progenium by maybe a year or two, I recall. Top marks, a crack shot on the firing range, and a true believer if there ever was one. I remember glancing over her field when she was posted to our precinct. Orphans of high-ranking Imperial servants often come through the Schola. They make some of the best arbitrators, loyal, fanatical, nothing to tie them down. Sakara's crisp salute and eager stance tell me she's dedicated at least. Follow me, arbitrator. I say, already moving toward the interrogation cells. She falls in step beside me, armor plates clicking. There's a faint limp in her gait, another souvenir from the riot, but she doesn't voice any complaint. As we descend into the lower levels of the fortress, the halls become narrower and darker. The humming of cogitators and distant screams of a prisoner echo through the corridors. The chasteners must be warming someone up in an interrogation suite already. Cold light panels cast our shadows tall on the gunmetal walls. We pass doorways leading to archives and evidence lockers. Every inch of this place is fortified, self-contained. We have our own firing ranges, mess halls, even a small medici bay and chapel to the God Emperor. An entire city within a city built to withstand anything up to a full-scale uprising. I take comfort in that. Sakara breaks the silence, her voice low. "Sir, permission to speak freely." "Granted," I reply, eyes ahead. I suspect I know what she's going to ask. I can almost feel the question itching at her since the moment I executed that rioter. She clears her throat gently. "Back there in the square, Judge, when you sentenced that man on the spot. I know it was justified under Lex Imperialis for sedition, but do you ever feel, no chance for him to repent or stand trial? Was it truly the best course? Ah, the moral quandaries of youth." I almost smile, but it comes out a grim smirk. At least she had the courage to ask. My footsteps slow as we reach the heavy door of Interrogation Chamber 3, currently unoccupied. The one-way transpex window is dark. I turn to face her directly. "Arbitrator, do you know the first line of the Book of Judgment's preface?" I ask. Sakara blinks at the change of topic, but she answers promptly, reciting from memory. "To be just, our law must be cruel." "Just so," I nod. "Mercy is a luxury we cannot afford." That riot was on the verge of becoming a full-scale revolt. If I had dragged that rat back for a formal trial, what message would that send to the hive? That maybe you can take a swing at the throne's authority and live to see a comfy cell? No. The only thing the crowd learned in that moment was that defiance is fatal. That is the Emperor's justice. Swift, unquestionable. Sakara meets my gaze, her jaw setting. "I understand, sir." I study her face for a moment. There's resolve there, and a hint of steel glinting in her eyes now. Good. She's learning. "In this job, doubt is an indulgence," I add quietly. "Innocence, guilt, irrelevant concepts once the bolter shells start flying. We make the Emperor's will real, Sakara. We are the wall between order and anarchy. Hesitate, and that wall cracks." She nods firmly. "Yes, Judge Drax." Sometimes the young ones need more than theory. They need a piece of your own story. I exhale and add, "My first year on the streets, I saw a fellow arbitrator, my training partner, get torn apart by a mob because he hesitated a half-second too long. I felt it then, that icy fear in my gut, but I clung to my purpose. I didn't run. I waded in and put down every last one of those frenzied lunatics. Fear could have stopped me, but instead it pushed me forward. I swore then I'd never let hesitation be the death of me or anyone under my watch." Sakara's eyes widen slightly at that. Before I can further pontificate, a servitor trundles by, its metal chassis bearing a tray of wicked-looking syringes and cruel implements, likely on the way to one of the chasteners. It gurgles a binary greeting as it passes. Sakara watches it go, perhaps wondering what horrors await our prisoners. "Remember," I finish, voice grim, "we give the Emperor's mercy by ending these scum quickly. That is mercy compared to what the enemies of the throne truly deserve." With that, I swipe my ident badge to unlock the interrogation chamber. The mag locks thud, and the door slides open. Inside, the room is sparse and menacing, steel walls lined with restraint brackets, a single lumen globe casting harsh white light onto a central metal chair equipped with shackles. A drain in the floor is ready to carry away blood, or worse. The air smells faintly of old sweat and sterilizing chems. Cozy. Two chasteners are already here preparing for the session. Tall, anonymous figures in drab hooded robes, their faces obscured by grotesque iron visages sculpted in the likeness of the Emperor's stern face. They move with an eerie calm, laying out tools on a side table. Neural whips, electroscapels, truth serum injectors, and less savory implements that gleam sharp under the light. One of them is softly humming a litany of extraction under his breath as he sharpens a slender knife. The melody is chilling in its levity. Chasteners, I greet them with a curt nod. We'll handle the questioning initially. Stand by. They incline their heads in unison and step back against the walls, as still as statues. They'll wait until I give the word to loosen someone's tongue by force. Sakara shifts next to me but keeps her composure. It's probably her first time in a real interrogation beyond training sims. She doesn't let her discomfort show beyond a slight tightening around her eyes. Moments later, Arbitrator Severin enters with two others, dragging between them our prime catch from the riot, the so-called chairman of the Water Protest Committee. He's a portly man with thinning gray hair matted to his scalp, blood dried on his temple from where he was likely pistol-whipped during arrest. His wrists are bound behind him and he's gasping, half-dragged as they haul him to the chair and slam him down. He's not hooded, yet. I wanted him to see everything clearly at first. "Prisoner Maris Dahlin, identified ringleader," Severin announces. I recognize the name from our intelligence briefings, a mid-level administrator from the local workers' union, gone rogue, stirring up anti-administratum sentiment. So this is the upstanding citizen who thought rallying the masses would fix the shortages. Idiot or opportunist? We'll find out. Dahlin groans as the arbitrators shackle his arms and legs to the chair. His beady eyes squint against the brightness. When he sees me, fear flashes across his face. Yes, he remembers me from the square and what I did to his compatriot. "No, please. I already told your people everything I know." Dahlin blubbers, tugging futilely at his restraints. Sweat beads on his forehead. "I'm just a spokesman, I swear. I never wanted any violence." I hold up a hand and his protests taper into whimpers. Stepping forward, I loom over the seated man. At this distance, and with me out of helmet, he can see the hard set of my features. I know what I look like to him, a stern-faced arbiter of his fate. Eyes as cold as the void. The blood spattered on my armor from the riot likely doesn't reassure him either. "Maris Dahlin," I say evenly, "you are charged with inciting sedition, conspiracy against Imperial authority, and accessory to multiple counts of murder and destruction during the course of a riot. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Frankly, the only reason you still draw breath is because I have questions that need answers. Cooperate fully, and I may be inclined to execute you before these gentlemen behind me get creative." I nod toward the chasteners who stand silently, their very presence a promise of pain. "Refuse and, well, you'll beg for that execution long before it's granted. Are we clear?" Dahlin's face has gone ashen. He nods frantically, throat bobbing. Yes, yes, Emperor's mercy, please. I'll talk, just don't let them—" He licks his lips. "I'll cooperate." I cast a glance at Sakara. She watches intently, absorbing technique. Good. "Now," I begin, "who supplied you with the weapons and explosives? Give me names, identities." Dahlin swallows. "I don't know their names, I swear it, my lord. They never identified themselves clearly." I exchange a look with Sakara and give a slight nod. She steps forward and, without warning, delivers a heavy gauntleted backhand across Dalin's face. The slap cracks sharply in the room. The prisoner yelps, blood trickling from a split lip. "I believe the judge asked you for names," Sakara says coldly. I hide a faint smile. She's a quick learner. Dalin blubbers. I truly never got their proper names. Just, they used aliases, call signs maybe. One called himself Gideon. Another was referred to as Spectre, I think. They spoke in code on the Vox at times. I'm sorry, that's all I know for names. I file that away. Could be lies, but it's something. Fine. Tell me everything you remember about them. Appearance, origin, what they wanted. He breathes shakily, eyes darting between me and Sakara. They reached out to me about a month ago, through an encrypted channel. Our union had been planning peaceful demonstrations over the water cutbacks. Just peaceful, I swear. But these outsiders offered to help make our voices heard, they said. They provided funding, thrones to buy supplies for rallies, bribe some enforcers to look the other way. At first, it was just small things. But then they started bringing weapons. He shudders. Crates of auto pistols, those makeshift bombs. They said we needed to be ready to defend ourselves, to show the administratum we meant business. I was hesitant, but when people are thirsty and angry, it doesn't take much to push them. And the money was good. Emperor, forgive me, I took it. For my family, you have to understand. Sakara smacks the back of his head, not too hard, but enough to cut off the self-pitying babble. Stay on topic, she snaps. Yes, Dalin whimpers. These men, I only met them in person twice, always in the lower hive, in rust-stack warehouses. They wore dull gray robes and masks, some kind of breathing apparatus that hid their faces. They spoke like high-born folk, but off somehow. One of them, the one called Gideon, had an auto voice box like he was using a device to disguise his voice. He seemed to be the leader. He knew a lot about our grievances, about the city's politics. Too much. He said the governor was corrupt and that the administratum didn't care if we all withered. He stirred up the anger in our committee, told us the emperor would want us to act. The man hangs his head. I see now how foolish we were. He manipulated us. They wanted a riot. They wanted a big spectacle. I didn't understand why. Still don't. But they promised me if it got big, if someone got hurt, real change might come. And they said if we succeeded, they had even more support ready for us. Maybe even weapons to take control of the whole water plant. He closes his eyes as if saying it out loud makes him realize how insane it was. I exchange a grim look with Sakara. This is larger than just stirring trouble. That sounds like encouraging outright rebellion, arming citizens to seize infrastructure. That's open insurrection, civil war in microcosm. Who benefits from that here? Focus, I growl. Did they give any hint who they worked for? Off-worlders, a cult, a rival hive noble, damned Xenos? Who? Dalin shakes his head desperately. They never said outright, but I did overhear something once. One of the cloaked men muttered to another when they thought I was out of earshot. He said, "His lordship will be pleased when the streets run red." I'm certain of it. His lordship, and another responded something about the mask. I don't know what it meant. I swear. Just those words, his lordship, so a noble likely. The mention of a mask is puzzling, unless it's some code name or cult title. Could it be referring to a cult icon, or a literal mask someone wears? Sakara speaks up, tone skeptical but controlled. You didn't ask who this lordship was, or what this mask meant. Dalin lets out a desperate little laugh. I didn't dare. They paid us well, but they also implied that if we asked too many questions, we'd end up in a corpse recycler. Emperor, help me. I was terrified of them even as I took their thrones. Coward. One last chance, darling, I say softly, leaning in. Where can we find these people again? Do they have a base of operations? How did you contact each other? He licks sweat off his upper lip. They always initiated contact with us. We were given a Vox frequency on a burner unit. If I needed to reach them, I was to send a coded burst and then destroy the device. I did as told. I tried the code this morning when the riots started to get their help, but got no response. They might be done with us now that the deed is done. His voice breaks a little, despair creeping in. Emperor knows I'm finished either way. I straighten up, silent for a moment. So the conspirators are careful. They cloaked their identities, used intermediaries like Darlin, and likely have gone to ground now that the riot happened. But we have clues, possible noble involvement, his lordship, possible unique elements like those bombs. The mention of mask rings no immediate bell, except as perhaps a handle or cult reference. There are heretical sects that use masks, or it could literally be someone known for a mask. No local noble comes to mind who fits that. Yet, Sakara looks to me. Sir, the Verispex analysis might have something by now, she says. Also, we could cross-reference known figures addressed as lordship involved in recent unrest, or if any noble's heraldry features a mask symbol. Good thinking, I reply. Turning back to Darlin, I regard him coolly. He seems to have given all he knows. It's time to wrap this up. Maris Darlin, by your own confession, you are guilty of sedition and conspiracy. The sentence— No, no, please, he shrieks, thrashing against the chair, making the restraints clatter. I cooperated! I helped you! Emperor, have mercy, please! I nod once to Sakara. In a fluid motion, she draws her sidearm, a chunky Arbites issue bolt pistol, and presses it to Darlin's sweating forehead. In the Emperor's name, she intones stonily. No, wait, is all he manages before she pulls the trigger. The bolter's crack is deafening in the small room. The back of Darlin's head explodes in a splash of blood and bone fragments that coat the chair and floor behind him. His now headless corpse slumps forward, still chained. Sakara steps back and holsters her smoking pistol, her face impassive but a tad paler than before. It might be the first time she's executed an unarmed man in cold blood up close. If she's shaken, she hides it well. Efficient, I remark quietly. The chasteners are already moving to unshackle the body and drag it out to disposal. One of them begins mopping the gore-splattered floor with almost bored routine. To them, just another day's work. Yes, sir, Sakara says, voice steady. Only the slight clench of her jaw gives away any inner turmoil. I'll have to keep an eye on her, make sure she compartmentalizes appropriately. But I approve of her decisiveness. She didn't hesitate. I turn on my heel and head for the door. Let's get that forensic report. As we exit the interrogation chamber, climbing back toward the main levels, I consider our findings. An unknown lordship pulling strings, masked henchmen with advanced planning, and a deliberate goal to cause carnage. This is smelling more and more like an organized cult or a noble's private conspiracy. Either way, it's not just some low-level rabble-rousing. It's serious. Sakara walks beside me, silent for now, likely processing what just happened. I'll give her a moment. Instead, I activate my Vox link. Drax to Verispex lab. Status on those devices from the riot? A burst of static, then a tinny voice replies, Analyst Cover here, Judge. We have preliminary results. The explosive compounds are identified as industrial auspex mining charges, the type commonly used in lower hive excavation crews. Traces of an additive in the formula suggest on-world manufacture, likely from the Telestron mining conglomerate's refineries, judging by chemical signature. Telestron mining. I search my memory. They run a number of promethium and plastic explosive plants in this hive's lower levels. Anything else? Yes, sir. We also cross-referenced vehicle traffic in and out of the area around the riot's flashpoint in the last 72 hours. The analyst continues, voice clipped and mechanical from cogitator integration. One unregistered hover truck was detected on Auspex scan 2 nights ago, making a drop-off in a utility bay near Granite Plaza, the same location a suspect mentioned in deposition. Dalin's story corroborated by sensor data. That's solid. Do we have a trace on that vehicle? Partial, sir. After the drop, it went off the standard transit grid, likely down into maintenance tunnels. Last picked up heading toward Sector 223B, an old underhive industrial zone, mostly abandoned manufactoria. A location to check out, possibly a hideout or staging area. Understood. Upload coordinates to my data slate. Coordinates sent, Judge. Emperor guide you. I thumb off the Vox and glance at Sakara. She's listening closely, battle-ready determination returning to her features. Looks like we have a lead, I tell her. We're going to take a little trip to Sector 223B. She nods, perhaps relieved to have action to focus on. Back up, sir? I consider it. The Underhive's abandoned zones are labyrinthine and deadly, crawling with mutants, gangers, Emperor knows what. Charging in alone, or just the two of us, would be foolish. On the other hand, too large a force and we tip our hand, if this is indeed where conspirators lurk. We'll take a small team, I decide. Discreetly. If these traitors get spooked, they'll vanish like roaches. I raise my Vox and call the ready squad. Judge Drax to patrol Sigma. Assemble a fire team for a recon operation. Live ammo, full kit. Meet at motor pool in 15. A chorus of acknowledgments chime back. Sakara is already flexing her grip on her shotgun eagerly. Sir, do you think these instigators will still be there? I allow myself a thin, wolfish grin. If they are, we'll smoke them out. If not, maybe they left something behind for us to find. Either way, we're going to rattle their nest. My blood is up now. This is the part of the hunt I live for, the scent of the quarry in my nostrils. We make our way to the arming chamber adjacent to the motor pool. The fire team is gathering. 4 arbitrators, in addition to Sakara and myself. Severin is among them, checking over his combat shotgun and the charge on his shock maul. 2 others I recognize. Arbitrator Lion, a burly man hefting a heavy combat shotgun with drum magazine for crowd suppression or close-quarter devastation, and Arbitrator Velas, slim and hawk-eyed, with a scoped sniper autogun slung across his back and a bandolier of grenades. Rounding them out is Arbitrator Zheng, a demolitions specialist, judging by the bag of breaching charges he's hefting. A solid crew for a tight situation. They nod or salute as appropriate when I enter. Listen up, I address them while strapping on a fresh ammo bandolier and exchanging my helmet's visor lens for a low-light optimized one. We have a lead on the parties responsible for arming this morning's rioters. Possibly holed up in the Underhive, Sector 223B. This is likely a scouting mission, but assume targets are armed and extremely dangerous. We want at least one alive, for questioning if possible. Unless they're heretics, then Emperor's mercy on them because we won't bother with restraint. A few dry chuckles at that. We move out in 10. Check your rebreathers and Auspex units. The air down there will be toxic and visibility low. Lion, have the Auspex scanner running for life signs and unusual energy readings. I don't want surprises. Keep Vox discipline, tight formation. Any questions? There are none. They're professionals. They double-check gear in silence and steel themselves for what's to come. Sakara secures her suppression shield on her arm and loads fresh shells into her shotgun with practiced motions. Good. A mix of breaching power and close-quarters protection. I take a moment to seal and sanctify my own gear. My Arbites carapace is already scarred from countless fights, each mark a memory. I run a gloved hand over a particularly deep gouge in my left pauldron, a souvenir from a mad hiver with an industrial saw years ago. I mutter a quick benediction. By the throne, guide my hand that I may strike true in your name. A habit of mine before a potentially deadly engagement. The Emperor helps those who help themselves, after all. The team piles into two vehicles. One is a standard Arbites Rhino transport, retrofitted for under-hive terrain with extra floodlights and plating. The other is a lighter scout half-track for flanking if needed. I climb into the Rhino's passenger bay along with Sikara, Severin, and Zheng, while Leon takes the wheel and Velas mans the pintle-mounted stubber up top. The engine growls to life, and with a lurch, we set off. We exit the precinct fortress through a heavy blast door on the opposite side from where we entered, descending a ramp that leads directly into the guts of the city's underbelly. Within minutes, the polished ferrocrete of RBT's territory gives way to cracked roads and corroded pillars. We drive down, leaving behind the mid-hive's dim daylight and entering layers lit only by flickering lumen strips and the Rhino's headlamps. Through a vision slit, I watch the hive's underworld crawl by. Sector 223B was once an industrial zone, long abandoned after the manufactoria ran dry or became unprofitable. Now it's a maze of skeletal factory blocks, collapsed loading bays, and flooded tunnels. This deep below the hive spire, it feels like a different planet entirely. The air is thicker, laden with chemical fumes and rot. Massive support pillars the size of cathedrals loom out of the darkness, festooned with rusted pipes and dripping sludge. The faint lumens overhead cast long shadows that play tricks on the eyes. The population here is sparse. The desperate and the degenerate cling to life in rusted-out husks of buildings. As we pass one alley, I spot a clutch of ragged figures huddling away from our lights like rats. Mutant scavengers, no doubt. They are wise to keep their distance. Now and then the scuttle of some vermin or the distant wail of a feral wretch echoes through the cavernous ruins. It's a graveyard of industry and hope down here. A thick chemical fog hangs in the air at these depths, and the Rhino's auspex pings occasionally with warnings of toxic pockets. We all switch to internal rebreathers, clicking our helmet seals shut. The world takes on a filtered hiss and a green tint through my visor's auspex display. Approaching target coordinates, Lion voxes from the driver's compartment. He slows the Rhino to a crawl. The half-track falls in behind us, its engine a low hum. Lights off, switch to night vision, I order. In unison, the vehicle lights cut out. The interior is plunged into darkness, save for the ghostly green glow of our visor displays. Outside, the shadows deepen. My helmet augmetics amplify the low light. I can make out the silhouette of a large foundry structure ahead. According to the coordinates, that should be our destination. Foundry 17 Zeta, reads the embossed lettering on a cracked plasteel sign, barely visible under grime. It's a mammoth building, multiple levels with broken windows like dead eyes, and chimneys that disappear upward into the gloom. We dismount quietly a block away to avoid our engine noise giving us away. The team fans out in practiced formation behind a fallen hab structure wall, scanning for sentries or ambush. The half-track's crew joins us. 2 arbitrators with carbines and mauls, making our total force 8. I hold up a fist to halt the advance and whisper into Vox, "Auspex readings?" Lion holds up a handheld scanner, studying it, getting faint heat signatures inside the foundry, ground level, and maybe one on an upper floor. Could be targets, could be wild dogs, hard to tell through interference. There's a lot of electrical static, probably old machinery still sparking. Fair enough. No obvious lookouts spotted. If they're smart, they might have tripwires or surveillance. Jeng, take point and sweep for traps. Velas, find a vantage and cover us. The sniper nods and slips into the shadows, heading for a pile of rubble that could give a better angle. We approach the foundry door, a colossal slab of plasteel half off its tracks. A gap wide enough for a man is open on one side, where the door is jammed ajar. Jeng motions, indicating a crude alarm rig, a cluster of tin cans and scrap hanging just inside the gap, ready to rattle if disturbed. Child's play. He carefully lifts and pins them aside silently. We slip through one by one. Inside, the foundry is an eerie cavern. Massive vats and conveyor belts sit rusting, long dormant. Pools of chemical runoff glimmer in our visor-enhanced sight. We move in near total silence, only the soft clink of our armor and the drip of water from the high ceiling above betraying any sound. My HUD marks the approximate location of the heat sources Lion picked up, overlaying a faint red blob behind a cluster of machinery ahead. I signal 2 arbitrators to flank left while I lead Sakara and Severin to the right. Step by step, weapons raised, we circle the machinery. I peer around a slag heap and finally see them. 2 figures huddled near a makeshift fire in a large furnace pit, about 30 meters ahead on the foundry floor. They're dressed in rags, under hive scavs by the look, likely squatters. Not our cloaked conspirators. One is poking at the meager fire, the other appears asleep or unconscious. I silently wave for the team to hold position. No need to announce ourselves just yet. Could these scavs have seen something? They might know if our targets were here. Suddenly, a clatter echoes from above. On a catwalk overhead, I glimpse a shadowy figure moving quickly. My visor zooms. It's a person in a hooded cloak, and they bolt out of sight the instant I spot them. Throne, damn it. Contact, upper level. Hooded target fleeing east side. I vox sharply, breaking silence. Velas, track him. Velas's scope glints as he takes aim from his vantage, but the fleeing figure has already disappeared behind a tangle of pipes and railings. After him, I command. Our cover is blown anyway. The 2 squatters below look up in alarm like startled rats. One begins to run for a side exit. Sakara steps forward, her voice amplified through her helm. Stay where you are. Arbites. The sheer authority in her shout freezes the scavs in their tracks. They throw themselves prone in fear, not eager to be gunned down. We ignore them for now, racing toward a stairway that leads up to the catwalks. Lion and one of the others remain behind to secure the ground level and cover the scavs, while I take Sakara, Severin, and Jeng up the metal stairs 2 at a time. My shotgun is raised, scanning. Adrenaline surges. We might have cornered one of our conspirators. We reach the catwalk level, a maze of rusted platforms and gangways crisscrossing above the foundry floor. The dim outlines of machinery create a forest of metal shadows. Somewhere in here, a cloak. Velas voxes quietly from below. Saw one target heading toward the east maintenance gantry. No clear shot. East gantry. I motion to Sakara and point eastward. We move that direction, carefully but quickly. A distant clang of a footstep on metal alerts us. The fugitive is not as quiet as they hoped. There, Sakara hisses. I catch a glimpse of a cloaked arm rounding a corner up ahead, about 20 meters, going down a ladder. Cut him off, I order. Jeng, with me. Severin, Sakara, try to flank via the next walkway. The team splits. I hurry after the target's path with Zheng at my back, pounding across the catwalk which groans under our weight. Below, Lion barks at the scavs to stay down. As I reach the ladder the target likely took, I peer down. It leads to a maintenance tunnel exit on the foundry's side. An escape route. Faint boot impacts echo up. The cloaked figure is moving below. I could slide down, but that might make me an easy target if he's waiting. Instead, I lob a flash grenade down the shaft. "Flash out," I warn over Vox. The sphere clinks against rungs and detonates with a magnesium pop. A startled shout from below tells me it had effect. Without hesitation, I grip the rails and slide down the ladder. I land and sweep my shotgun in an arc. The tunnel is narrow, lit only by flickers of failing lumens. The cloaked figure is stumbling ahead, one hand to their eyes from the flashbang. They sense me and raise a weapon. I hear the distinctive whoosh of a hand flamer just as I duck back. A tongue of chemical fire roars past my position, scorching the wall. "Little rat has a flamer," I growl. The flame dies off and I lean out to return fire. My combat shotgun bucks thrice, boom, 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 firing a spread of executioner slugs. They spark as they home toward the heat of the target. One catches the runner in the leg. He screams and tumbles forward, dropping the flamer which clatters on the tunnel floor. Before he can recover, I'm on him. I slam my boot onto his back, pinning him. He's lean, surprisingly light, probably pumped full of stims to even think of running on a wounded leg. His hood falls back, revealing a face covered by a featureless reflective mask. Interesting. He writhes, clawing at his belt. I glimpse a grenade. I stomp on his hand and yank the grenade away just as his thumb pulls the pin. I hurl it down the tunnel where it explodes harmlessly, a blast of shrapnel ringing off the metal walls. That was too close. The figure wheezes in pain. Now that I see him clearly, his attire is more apparent. Underneath the gray cloak, some kind of dark body glove and an ammo rig. His mask is a dull silver visage of a human face with no features, just slits for eyes. Creepy. By now, Sakara and Severin appear at the top of the ladder above, weapons ready. "Suspect down," Sakara calls. "Alive, barely sane," I respond. I flip the suspect onto his back and press my shotgun barrel against his chest for emphasis. He's bleeding from the leg wound. Bright red arterial blood is pumping out. I probably hit an artery. He won't last long without aid, and I'm not feeling particularly charitable unless he talks. Sakara descends quickly, Severin covering from above. She approaches, binding the man's hands with cuffs and efficiently patting him down for more weapons. She pulls a nasty-looking knife from his boot and another grenade from a pouch. The masked man chuckles wetly, his voice distorted through some Vox grill in the mask. "Judges, too late," he rasps. "Too late?" I butt the shotgun against his chest. "Too late for what, scum?" He coughs. I see blood seeping from under the mask. Maybe my shot or shrapnel got him in the gut, too. The streets, already red, and soon the sky will burn, he gurgles. Cultist drivel or a real threat? I press down harder with the shotgun. "Who's your leader? Who is his lordship? What are you planning next?" I demand fiercely. His eyes flutter open behind the mask's slits one last time. He fixes me with a crazed stare and hisses. The mask of judgment falls, and the harlequin will dance in the ashes. Then a final rattling breath escapes, and his body goes slack. I frown deeply. Riddles and nonsense, or coded prophecy of their plan? Mask of judgment, Emperor's bowels, that could be anything. Harlequin usually refers to those Eldar performers, but in context it might be symbolic or misdirection, possibly a code name or cult metaphor. Sakara looks as perplexed as I feel, though anger simmers in her eyes at the man's defiance, even in death. "Sir, we lost him," she says, frustration in her tone. "It happens," I grunt. I'm annoyed too. These fanatics would rather die than give a straight answer. Still, he confirmed something big is coming, something possibly worse. We quickly search the body, retrieving a small data slate device from an inner pocket. It's encrypted, of course, but our tech priests might crack it. There's also a curious pendant around his neck, a small charm shaped like that same mask symbol. Definitely a cult or secret society insignia. By now, the rest of the team has regrouped around us. Severin reports, "No other suspects found. The two locals downstairs claim they were just squatting. They're terrified out of their wits." He scoffs. "I doubt they're connected, likely just unlucky bystanders." "Detain and flag them for further screening anyway," I order. "If nothing else, loitering in an off-limits area is crime enough." Lion steps forward, casting a glance at the corpse. "Seems we at least got one of the bastards." "Not nearly enough," I say. "This one was a foot soldier. There will be others, but we got a symbol and some cryptic words. And this?" I hold up the confiscated data slate. "Could be useful intel if we can break it." Sakara's voice is firm, eager. "We should head back and get the cogitators on that data, sir, and that pendant symbol. Perhaps our archives have a match?" I nod, pleased at her initiative. "Agreed. We withdraw for now. Good work, everyone. We poked the hive and the wasp showed itself. Next time, we'll bring a bigger swatter." There's a general murmur of assent. They're all itching for a clearer target. We haul the now-deceased conspirator's body out as well. The chasteners might still glean something from it in their labs, or at least we can publicly display it as a warning if needed. As we move, I notice Sakara still clutching the mask we pulled off the man. She's turning it over in her hands, as if trying to glean meaning from it. The silvered surface reflects the faint light, featureless and eerie. I place a hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out," I say quietly. "The Emperor's truth will out." She looks up and gives a resolute nod, slipping the mask into an evidence bag. "Yes, sir." Inside, though, I feel stirrings of concern. Whoever these people are, they are bold, inciting riots, talking about burning skies and judging the judges. This is more than a simple malcontent, noble stirring trouble for political gain. This feels fanatic, dangerous, possibly heretical. I silently mouth a prayer to the God Emperor that we root out every last one of them before whatever plan they have unfolds. Because if we fail, I shove that thought aside. We will not fail. We are the Adeptus Arbites, the Emperor's unblinking justice. Back at Precinct Fortress 17, a storm is brewing. Not of weather, but of activity. By the time our raid team returns with our captured evidence, word has spread through the Arbites command echelons. Outside provocateurs, possible cult activity, and hints of a noble's involvement. It's the kind of case that sets every lawman on edge and hungry for resolution. No sooner have we marched the detained scavers to a holding cell and handed off the dead cultist's body to the forensic morgue than I'm summoned to a briefing chamber. Sakara is right on my heels, helmet under her arm, the grime of the underhive still smeared on our armor. She looks tired but determined. A streak of the cultist's blood crosses her cheek, which she hasn't even wiped off yet. Inside the chamber, a hololithic projector flickers with images, a rotating silver mask symbol, snapshots of the riot scene, chemical analysis charts. Around the table stand several figures. Commander Ruth, a few senior judges from other precinct divisions, a representative of the local PDF command, looking uncomfortable in a room full of Arbites. And to my surprise, a man in a plain high-collared robe, bearing the small skull and letter I rosette of the Inquisition at his neck. Thin and pale, he observes silently from a corner, hands clasped. Throne. The Inquisition already? Word travels fast. Perhaps Routh thought it prudent to alert them, given the possible heresy afoot. The Ordo Hereticus symbol on the rosette tells me he's Witch Hunter branch. That likely means they suspect something warp-tainted in this affair, too. Routh wastes no time. Judge Drax, report your findings for the group, he instructs. I step forward and in concise terms relay the key points. The interrogation of Maris Darlin and his information about hooded outsiders and a lordship. Our raid on Foundry 17 Zeta, the cloaked suspect we engaged, and the cryptic phrases he uttered as he died. Particularly the mask symbol and references to a mask of judgment and Harlequin will dance in the ashes. At that last line, I notice the inquisitorial agent's eyebrow arch slightly, but he still says nothing. When I finish, one of the senior judges, old Maelia, mutters, "Damnable cultists. They dare infest our hive." Her knuckles are white on the pommel of her power maul. Roth nods grimly. We've been reviewing data as well. The Verispecs department decrypted fragments of the data slate your team recovered. He gestures to the hololith where lines of transcribed text appear, coded messages with some words highlighted. We only got partial content. Some of the encryption was self-corrupting, but enough to glean a few things. He continues. First, it appears to be correspondence between the agent you killed and an individual referred to as M or sometimes my lord, likely the lordship in question. One of the PDF officers, a colonel by his insignia, frowns. A traitor noble? Emperor forbid. Routh presses on. The messages reference delivering weapons to the discontented, orchestrating acts of red rebellion to loosen the grip of the eagle's talons. And a larger event mentioned as the Grand Masquerade, approaching on a specified date, which happens to be tomorrow night. He looks at me, expression hard. There's also mention that at the height of this event, when the false judges are blind, the Harlequin shall take the stage. Sakara shoots me a glance at the word Harlequin. This ties directly to the dying cultist's ramblings. Routh uses a pointer to highlight a particular section of text on the holo. Crucially, we found an address embedded in one message, likely as a meeting location. It's an estate in the upper hive spire, specifically the estate of Lord Remus Calderon. A low murmur goes around the room. Lord Remus Calderon. I recognize the name immediately. One of the high-born nobles on the hive's governing council. The Calderon family has long held significant power here, and Remus himself publicly opposed the governor's recent rationing edicts, stirring up resentment under the guise of speaking for the common folk. A convenient stance for a man secretly arming those same folk to revolt. His family controls major industrial unions, including one that oversees the Telestron mining conglomerate in the lower hive. Telestron, the same company the explosives were traced to. Pieces snapped together in my mind. Calderon has both motive and means. Motive, perhaps, as an ambitious noble or a secret heretic. Means as he has access to munitions, funds, and influence. And come to think of it, House Calderon's heraldry. Yes, a stylized visage of a grinning mask is part of their crest. I recall it now. The Calderon coat of arms bears a twin-faced theater mask behind a crossed hammer and quill. At the time, I thought it a strange choice, but nobles and their affectations often are odd. That cannot be a coincidence. Lord Calderon, Sakara breathes, clearly making the connection as well. Routh inclines his head to us. I grit my teeth. Calderon has been at odds with the planetary governor of late, typical power struggles. Perhaps he's turned to outright treachery. Or worse, he's fallen to heresy and is using that feud as cover. If Calderon is behind this, he's going to pay dearly, I say quietly. The inquisitorial agent finally speaks, voice as soft as silk yet commanding attention. We must be cautious. If a highborn is truly involved in a chaos cult, possibly Slaneshi by the iconography of masks and mention of a dance, the Ordo Hereticus has keen interest. His eyes flick to me. Judge Drax, did the cultist's words or any evidence explicitly indicate a chaotic influence? Demons, witchcraft, anything of that nature? I pause a moment. No open mention of the ruinous powers by name, but the fanatics' talk of burning skies and judging the judges could be just metaphor. However, the brazenness and scale suggest a cult. Yes, possibly one that worships the idea of tearing down Imperial order. That in itself is heresy enough. The agent nods. Understood. My superiors will want to interrogate any surviving conspirators thoroughly. I advise taking some alive if possible. Routh interjects. Our priority is stopping whatever is planned for this grand masquerade tomorrow. That appears to be the culmination of their plot. It could be anything from a mass assassination, a public act of terror, or some ritual. Throne, protect us. Judge Maelia speaks up, her gravelly voice filled with resolve. We should move on Calderon immediately, arrest him and search his estate top to bottom. Surprise is key, another judge counters. If we hit a High Lord without due process and he turns out innocent, the political fallout... Innocent, I snap, unable to hold my tongue. I gesture at the evidence displayed. You think this is all coincidence? It all points to him. Innocent or not, something foul is happening on his property tomorrow. We can't sit on our hands. The PDF colonel clears his throat. Lord Calderon is hosting a private gathering tomorrow night, as it happens. A masquerade ball to celebrate some familial anniversary, or so the invitation said. Many nobles and officials will attend. It's the talk of the upper spire. The words masquerade ball hang in the air. Grand masquerade. Of course, the cult would hide under the guise of a legitimate event. No doubt a display of extravagance and excess, fine dining and depravity behind closed doors, while the masses below choke on recycled air and thin gruel. I feel a familiar contempt well up. Even if this wasn't a cult cover, the hypocrisy would reek. Routh's face hardens. That seals it. Calderon's ball is the target or the cover for it. We cannot allow hundreds of possibly loyal Imperial subjects to be put at risk if a chaos, ritual, or terrorist attack is set to occur there. He turns to the inquisitorial man. We'll need Inquisition authorization to act directly against a noble of Calderon's stature to avoid any legal backlash. The agent nods. Consider it granted. On behalf of the Ordo Hereticus, I sanction your operation. I will also dispatch word to my superiors. Perhaps an inquisitor will join if time permits, but given short notice, we may be on our own. Fine by me, I think. Last thing I need is an inquisitor sweeping in at the final hour and taking over, though their help would not be unwelcome if a greater diamond pops out of a cake. Plans are quickly hashed out. The Arbites will raid Calderon's estate at the start of the masquerade, when all conspirators likely are present, and before they can enact their plan. Discreetly, if possible, secure key individuals, then a full purge if necessary. The PDF will be on standby to cordon off the area to prevent escape or wider panic. The Inquisition agent insists on joining the Arbites entry team for first-hand oversight and presumably to personally handle any witchery. Assignments are doled out. Routh will lead the overall RBT force from a command vehicle. Judge Maelia will coordinate perimeter units. I am to lead one of the entry teams breaching directly into the ballroom alongside a contingent of arbitrators, with Sakara at my side and the Inquisition agent embedded. Our job? Capture or eliminate Lord Calderon and any key cult leaders, secure the guests, and stop whatever horrific surprise they have planned. This is the kind of high-stakes operation Arbites train for, but rarely execute, striking at the very heights of power in defense of the Imperium's law. As the meeting breaks, I catch Sakara's eye. She gives me a tight, excited smile. Despite the danger, I know she's eager to bring justice to the corrupted nobility, to truly prove herself in the eyes of the Emperor. Her earlier moral hesitation is gone. She's in full Arbites mode now. Gear up and get some rest while you can, I tell her. Tomorrow we'll be up to our necks in it. She nods. Yes, sir. I won't let you down. I manage a faint grin. You haven't yet. The next cycle passes in a blur of preparation. Weapons are checked and rechecked. Specialized gear is issued. Shock grenades for crowd control, sin-skin undersuits to muffle our movements during the initial infiltration, refractor shields for those of us breaching head-on in case of heavy fire. I even requisition a personal favorite from the armory, a long-barreled bolter with executioner rounds, excellent for picking off targets in a crowd without collateral. My usual shotgun will suffice for close work, but it's good to have options. Sakara spends some time at the shrine, kneeling before a small statue of the Emperor, head bowed. I stand a respectful distance away, watching as she mouths a prayer. Perhaps for forgiveness for the executions she's done, or for strength in the coming battle, or both. The candlelight illuminates her young face, and I realize she's scarcely more than a girl, yet already hardened by duty. I feel a pang of something like protectiveness, unusual for me. I squash it. Attachment is a weakness. Still, I utter my own silent litany in my head. Emperor, watch over your servants in the trials to come. Let not the heretic or demon prevail over us this day. To serve the Emperor, to protect his domains, to judge and stand guard over his subjects. The words of the Arbites cadet oath echo in my thoughts unbidden as I finish my quiet prayer. I swore those lines as a cadet long ago, and by the throne I intend to uphold them tomorrow. Soon an Arbites assault transport, an up-armored grav shuttle typically used for rapid redeploy, assembles our strike teams. We board in full tactical gear under the guise of dusk. Our black armor plates have been given a matte coating to prevent shine. We look less like peacekeepers and more like a kill squad. Sometimes they are one and the same. The plan is multi-pronged. Disguised plainclothes Arbites have been inserted earlier in the day as servitorial staff within Calderon's estate to act as eyes on the inside and possibly disable security systems when we move in. The main forces will approach via armored vehicles on the ground and by this grav shuttle from above to quickly surround the mansion. We intend to breach exactly at 2000 local, the height of the party when everyone is distracted and the conspirators likely begin their move. During the flight, Sakara sits beside me, double-checking her bolt pistol. I notice she's attached a small charm of the Aquila to its grip. Likely something from her Schola days, blessed by a Ministorum priest. Can't hurt. Her face is calm, but I sense energy rolling off her in waves. "How are you holding up?" I ask quietly through the private Vox channel between our helmets. "Focused, sir. Ready," she replies at once. Then, after a pause, "Do you ever get afraid, Judge Drax?" I turn to look at her, our visors face to face. "Fear is human," I answer after a moment. "I feel it, but I don't let it paralyze me. I make it my guardrail. If I fear something, I acknowledge it, then do my duty regardless. Sometimes fear keeps you alert. My first year on the streets, I saw a fellow arbitrator. my training partner, get torn apart by a mob because he hesitated. I was afraid then, sure, but I used it. I didn't run from the fight. I ran into it. She absorbs that and nods. Understood. Before long, the comm signal all teams in position. Our shuttle hovers high, silent running mode, just a dark speck in the night smog. Below, the lights of the Calderon estate glitter. His mansion sits atop one of the upper hive terraces, an opulent manse with grand archways and gardens under a suspended translucent dome, protecting it from the hive's polluted winds. From here, I can even make out the opulence on display. Marble colonnades, gilded frescoes on the high arches, fountains and topiaries visible through the crystal dome. It's a shame such beauty may soon be marred by gunfire, but better a damaged estate than a defiled hive. Through my binoculars, I see the glow of chandeliers and moving figures. The party is in full swing. Red teams in position, green teams ready, entry teams standing by. Various squad leaders report. Routh's command voice comes through. All units, on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Emperor's Justice. With a lurch, our grav shuttle dives toward the glass-domed roof of the ballroom. At the same time, ground units smash through the front gate in repressor vehicles, and other squads breach side entrances. Our shuttle's assault ramp blows open mid-air with a rush of wind. I'm first out, leaping the last few meters as the shuttle hovers just above the dome. I crash through the ornate glass with a thunderous shatter. Boots first, my grav harness cushioning the impact as I land on the mezzanine level of the ballroom in a rain of shards. The grand ballroom sprawls below, all polished marble floors and towering windows draped in rich crimson velvet. Banquet tables laden with half-eaten delicacies stretch out, and a crystal chandelier swings precariously from our dramatic entrance. Masked guests in extravagant silks and brocades are scattered in startled poses, their evening of revelry shattered in an instant. 6 arbitrators follow close behind me, including Sakara and the Inquisition agent, who surprisingly agilely rappels down via a drop harness, bolt pistol in hand. Guests scream. An orchestral ensemble down in the main floor pit stops mid-song with a discordant screech of strings. Dozens of masked nobles and courtiers whirl in confusion at our dramatic entrance. Their elaborate costumes and colorful masquerade masks look absurdly frivolous to me as we descend like black-armored reapers. "Stand down! On your knees now!" I roar through my amplifiers, shotguns sweeping the crowd. At the same time, explosions boom as the front doors are blasted open by breaching charges, and arbitrators flood in from multiple entries. Gunfire erupts in a few spots where house guards foolishly resist. The distinct chatter of Arbites shotguns and the flash crack of bolt pistols echo through the gilded hall. Most of the guests panic and drop to the marble floor, hands over their heads or shaking in terror. They might not even know yet who is attacking. Maybe they think assassins or terrorists. Our black armor and skull-visage helmets don't exactly scream salvation, but fear is fine. Fear keeps them compliant. Sakara is at my shoulder, shield raised as we both scan for our prime target. Lord Calderon. According to intel, he should be at the head of the room, likely on a dais or near the high table. There, Sakara voxes, highlighting a cluster of figures at the far end near a grand throne-like chair. A portly man in a golden half-mask, Calderon, stands with a woman in a peacock feather mask, his wife perhaps, and a few others. Strangely, they are not cowering. They seem to be arguing among themselves heatedly. I see Calderon gesticulating angrily at a thin man in a jester-like harlequin mask who's clutching a cane. That one's posture and eerie calm amidst chaos mark him as suspicious. Could he be one of the cult leaders? Maybe the one about to enact the plan. We rush forward, arbitrators fanning out to secure or subdue guests as needed. One fool in a fox mask actually charges at us with a dueling sword, perhaps high on some combat drug or just suicidal, and Sakara neatly drops him with a stun round from her shotgun, sending him spasming to the floor. We vault over a decorative fountain, now about 20 meters from Calderon and his entourage. I shout, "Lord Remus Calderon, in the name of the Emperor and the Lex Imperialis, you are—" But I don't finish the sentence. Without warning, Calderon turns and runs. Not just runs, he grabs his bewildered wife by the arm and yanks her with him, making a dash toward a side exit behind a tapestry. The coward clearly had an escape plan in mind. "After him!" I bark. Sakara and two arbitrators pursue Calderon. I move to intercept the slender harlequin-masked man, who remains oddly still amidst the commotion. The inquisitorial agent is advancing toward him too, Rosarius symbol in one hand, bolt pistol in the other. I level my shotgun. "You, on the ground, now." The harlequin-masked figure slowly turns his head toward me. Though the mask's painted grin is fixed, I sense real malice behind it. "Ah, the law arrives at last," he says softly, almost jovially, voice muffled slightly by the mask. "Welcome, arbitrator, or is it judge? Either way, welcome to the grand finale." My gut twists. "Take off that mask and surrender, or I'll remove your head from your shoulders," I snarl, stepping closer. He cocks his head. "Alas, my part is nearly done, but the performance? It's only beginning." The Inquisition agent steps forward, intoning, "By authority of the Ordo Hereticus, you are charged with heresy and conspiracy. Remove your mask and submit." For a split second, everything stills. The masked man tilts his head back and laughs, a chilling, theatrical laugh that echoes unnaturally loud in the hall's acoustics. Many of the prone guests scream or cover their ears as the laugh reverberates, carrying with it a strange distortion. "Poor enforcers of the corpse god," the man intones. "You have no idea what you interrupt, but no matter, the curtain falls for you all." He snaps the head of his cane downward, and I realize it's a disguised weapon, a small launcher or flamer maybe. "Gun!" I shout as he fires. With a whoosh, a plume of eerie green flame erupts toward us. The inquisitorial agent dives aside surprisingly swiftly for his age, his robe catching fire at the hem. I raise my shield instinctively. The flames lick around me. It's not promethium, something warp-tainted, as the flame is cold, yet leaves a burning ache where it touches. My armor's ablative coating smolders. I return fire with my shotgun, but the masked man is quick, unnaturally so. He darts behind a marble pillar, my shot blowing chips out of it. From his cane he launches another burst, this time not flame, but a streaking orb of crackling energy that sails across the room and impacts one of my arbitrators square in the chest. The man is lifted off his feet, screaming as arcs of warp lightning dance over his body, before he collapses in a smoking heap. Emperor's mercy, this cultist is a witch, or has Xenos tech. Inquisitor, witchcraft confirmed, I vaucous out, even as I duck another searing bolt of green fire. All units, lethal force authorized on masked target. The agent, patting out flames on his robe, shouts a holy denouncement in High Gothic and fires his bolt pistol. A round catches the masked sorcerer's shoulder, exploding and tearing a chunk of flesh. The masked man staggers with a grunt, black blood oozing. Before he can recover, I surge forward, switching to my bolter slung at my back. I unleash a burst at him. One bolt pings off his cane weapon, another detonates against his thigh, shredding it. The masked man collapses to one knee. I advance, intent to finish him. But even now, the wounded heretic's hands trace a symbol in the air, and he begins chanting in a tongue that makes my skull throb. The lights in the ballroom flicker. An unnatural wind howls through the chamber, sending gowns fluttering and candles guttering out. Several arbitrators falter, making the sign of the Aquila in warding. I feel a wave of nausea, the warp's presence, thick and foul. The agent screams, "He's summoning something! Stop him!" I don't hesitate. I close the distance and swing my shotgun like a club, catching the masked man in the side of the head. The mask cracks and he tumbles, interrupting his incantation with a pained cry. But I'm too late to completely stop the effect. With a thunderous crack, a tier of sickly light opens in midair above the center of the ballroom, swirling with impossible colors. People shriek in renewed panic. From the rift, a figure begins to emerge, lithe and capering. She flips out of the portal with unnatural grace, a tall, feminine form clad in tattered motley that might once have been jester's garb. Her skin is corpse-white and her eyes burn with malevolence. Where her face should be is a leering mask frozen in a manic grin. The creature lands on the banquet table in a bizarre mockery of a performer sticking a landing. Plates and crystal goblets scatter and crash around her. This must be the Harlequin spoken of. Not an Eldar one, but something far worse. A demon, a being of chaos, likely of Slanesh, judging by the theatrical flair. For a heartbeat, everyone in the room stares in dread silence at the impossible horror. The demon gives a flourishing bow, as if the stunned crowd were an audience gathered just for her. Then she begins to dance. Music, hideous and beguiling, emanates from nowhere and everywhere. A jangling, discordant parody of a cheerful jig. The demon twirls and leaps across the table, each movement unnaturally fast. An arbitrator raises his weapon to fire, but she pirouettes toward him, and with a casual sweep of her clawed hand, she takes his head clean off his shoulders mid-leap. She lands lightly, never breaking rhythm, holding the arbitrator's severed head for a moment, like a dance prop before tossing it aside. Emperor, have mercy. The ballroom descends into chaos. Guests scramble in all directions, some fainting or trampling each other. A few go mad at the mere sight of the demon. I see one elegantly dressed matron tearing at her own eyes, shrieking that she can't unsee the nightmare, while another nobleman falls to his knees, gibbering prayers as his mind splinters. The sheer terror in the hall is palpable. "Focus fire! Kill that thing!" I bellow. Arbitrators open up, slug and bolt rounds whizzing. But the demon, laughing in a trilling voice, contorts and spins, dodging most shots in a blur. A bolt shell clips her leg, blowing part of it away. But she only staggers a step and keeps dancing, balancing impossibly on one foot now. She mockingly claps in time with the infernal music. The inquisitorial agent begins chanting an exorcism, holding forth a silver aquila. The demon hisses at him and lashes out with a wave of her hand. A crackling pink bolt of warp energy smashes the agent square in the chest. He's thrown back into a column, bones audibly cracking. He slumps, alive or dead, I cannot tell. I grit my teeth. This is beyond the usual call of Arbites duty, but no one else is here to do it. Only in death does duty end, and I'm not dead yet. If I must die to banish this fiend, so be it. "Drax, we need backup. Heavy ordnance," someone voxes in near panic. Outside, more arbitrators are doubtless trying to fight their way in. But it's chaos with panicked nobles and possibly cultists still causing trouble. My thoughts race. The sorcerer summoned this demon. Perhaps if I kill him or disrupt him further, it might weaken her hold here. He's wounded on the ground where I left him. I spot him crawling toward his fallen cane weapon, leaving a smear of blood. I make a snap decision. Yelling to those nearby, "Keep the demon occupied," I sprint back toward the downed sorcerer. Sakara, Emperor bless her, hears and acknowledges, though I hadn't realized she'd returned to the main hall. She must have lost Calderon's trail or secured him and come back. Now she rushes bravely at the dancing monstrosity, opening fire with her shotgun. "Over here, freak!" she shouts, trying to draw its attention from the more defenseless guests. The demon's hollow eyes shift to Sakara. With a fluid spring, it lunges off the table toward her. Sakara blocks with her suppression shield as claws rake across it, screeching on the ceramite. The sheer force knocks her back, but she stands firm, firing point blank. Shimmering ichor sprays as pellets chew into the demon's torso. The creature screeches, an unholy mix of pain and pleasure, seemingly invigorated by both. Reaching the sorcerer, I kick the cane out of his reach. He flips onto his back, raising a hand crackling with warp energy. Before he can unleash it, I slam my boot down on his arm, shattering bone. He howls. "No more tricks," I growl, and drive my power maul, drawn now from my belt loop, down into his chest. The shock field discharges with a blue flash, and his ribs cave in. He gasps, blood gurgling. I lean down, putting my weight on the maul, pinning him. "Send it back," I demand. "Banish it, or I will make your dying moments agony." He spits blood, sneering even as life fades from his eyes. "You have already lost, Judge. The mask will caper over your corpse." He chokes, then with a final rasp, "Glory to the Prince of Pleasure." His pupils glaze. He's gone. Damn, no quick banishment that way. I yank my maul free. The demon doesn't vanish. In fact, she seems even more enraged, perhaps sensing the death of her summoner. Or perhaps now, unbound, she's free to remain until banished by force. I turn to see Sakara in pitched battle with the entity. Two other arbitrators lie dead nearby, one literally sliced in half at the waist. Sakara is bleeding from a gash in her thigh, but still fighting, keeping her shield between her and the sinuous fiend. The demon feints left, then right, striking faster than thought. Sakara manages to duck one swipe, parry another with her crackling shock maul. Her courage is immense. Facing a demon of Slanesh in melee is something even Astartes would find daunting. I raise my bolter, trying to get a clear shot, but they're moving too fast and entwined. I'd risk hitting Sakara. The demon savagely kicks Sakara's shield. The impact sends Sakara sprawling onto her back, her shield skidding away. In an instant, the graceful horror is atop her, pinning her down. The demon's mask looms inches from Sakara's face. With a cooing voice, it mocks, "So pretty in your righteousness, let me show you exquisite despair." A clawed hand grasps at Sakara's helmet, nails squealing against the plasteel as it tries to tear it off. Sakara struggles, punching at the demon's arm, but the creature is monstrously strong. Her helmet comes free with a crack of torn seals, exposing her face. She snarls, defiant even now, spitting up at the demon. I can't fire a bolt with them grappling. I'd hit Sakara. With a roar of fury, I drop the bolter and charge forward with my power maul, adrenaline flooding my limbs. I swing at the fiend with all my might. The crackling maul catches the demon across her back. There's a burst of warp flesh and an unearthly shriek. The creature is thrown off Sakara, tumbling across the floor. I plant myself in front of Sakara, shield raised, maul ready. The demon rises, her form flickering and unstable, one arm hanging limp and head at an awkward angle from my blow. But she's not finished. That grotesque grin on the mask somehow seems to widen. She launches at me. I meet her swing with my shield. Claws tear a long gouge but don't penetrate. I counterstrike with the maul, catching her in the side. She shrieks but twists away, lashing out with a leg that sweeps my feet. I go down hard, the breath knocked from me. As the demon springs at me for the kill, a boom rings out, a single perfectly placed bolter shot. The demon's head explodes in a spray of warp matter and shards of mask. Sakara kneels a short distance away, helmet gone, blood running from her scalp into her eyes, but her expression is steeled. She fired her pistol. The headless demon staggers, claws clenching spastically. A noise like a building imploding emits from its throatless neck, a sucking, screeching sound as reality reasserts itself. The creature collapses in on itself, the body folding and crumpling into nothingness, leaving only a smear of vile ichor on the marble floor. For a moment, neither Sakara nor I move, both panting. The hellish music has ceased. Only the sobs and moans of the injured fill the silence. I get to my feet, every muscle trembling from exertion and warp exposure. Sakara tries to rise as well, but winces, sinking back to one knee. The gash on her thigh is pouring freely, a crimson pool spreading under her. She's pale. In an instant, I'm at her side, helping prop her up. "Medici!" I shout. "Get a medici here, now!" Across the room, our forces are mopping up. Many guests are wounded or in shock. Arbites move among them, separating the cult-aligned, some of whom resisted and were shot, from the innocents. I see a few PDF medics rushing in from the now secured perimeter. Sakara manages a weak grin, even as her blood stains my gloves. We did it, sir," she whispers. I nod, feeling an uncharacteristic swell of pride and relief. Yes, the Emperor's law prevails. Her eyes flutter. She's losing blood fast. I press a hand to her wound, trying to staunch it. "Stay with me, Sakara." Medics arrive, one injecting a coagulant and another preparing a transfusion pack. They work quickly, and I reluctantly let them lay her flat and tend to the wound properly. She's still conscious, barely. The Inquisition agent limps over, a nasty burn on his chest, but alive. "Throne. Well fought, Judge," he manages. "The heretic noble?" "Calderon," I suddenly remember. I look around, no sign of him in the carnage here. "Did we get him?" As if in answer, one of the arbitrators voxes in. "Patrol Sigma here. Target tried to escape via personal shuttle. We intercepted him. Little Weasel's in custody." I exhale in relief. Good. Calderon will face Imperial justice, what little of it our system allows for one of his rank. Given his heresy, I suspect the Inquisition will claim him for interrogation and an auto-da-fe. Fitting. Judge Maelia steps through the rubble, her armor scorched and dented. "We've secured the estate, Drax," she says. "Perimeter is tight. The place is crawling with our people and PDF now. The worst is over. In all my years on the Force, I've faced recidivists, mutants, even rogue psychers, but never before had I come face to face with a creature of the warp itself. The experience is sobering. If ever I needed a reminder of why our vigilance can never falter, I have it now. The archenemy's darkness truly lurks in every shadow, even in the gilded halls of nobles. All around, the aftermath unfolds. Nobles are crying or shouting indignantly as they're questioned and checked for any taint. The Arbites move among them with impersonal efficiency, arresting identified cult collaborators, aiding the wounded where necessary. Smoke from small fires and the tang of blood and ozone hang in the air. Gilded statues are spattered with gore, the opulence of the place marred by violence. It will be the talk of the hive for years, a ball turned into a battlefield. As the adrenaline ebbs, I find myself counting our own fallen. There are 6 arbitrators down in this hall, and more wounded. Good men and women who gave their lives tonight so that others might live. Their names will be carved on the honor roll in our precinct's chapel, perhaps a brief mention in a cable to Sector Command. But there will be no public statues, no grand funerals for them. The citizens here will never know the price these nameless warriors paid on their behalf. Such is our lot. We remember our own, and we carry on. I vow quietly that their sacrifice will be remembered. Only in death does duty end, as the saying goes. And for these men and women, duty has ended in honor. The rest of us will have to shoulder it in their absence. As I begin to gather myself, Commander Routh approaches, removing his own helmet. His lined face looks unusually human in the wash of emergency luminators. The area is secure. Good work, Drax, he says quietly. I nod. Coming from him, that's high praise. We stand in silence a moment, watching a line of weary arbitrators carry out the last of the detainees. I recognize one of the shackled figures as that magistratum sergeant from the ration riots. Looks like he was here at the party, likely in Calderon's pay. Small galaxy. Our eyes meet briefly, his fill with shame and fear before he's pushed along into a waiting transport. Another name on the ever-growing ledger of guilt. Roth turns to me. Get some rest. You've been on your feet nearly 2 shifts straight. I will, I reply. But I know paperwork awaits once I return to the precinct, not to mention statements for the Inquisition. Still, a shower and an hour's sleep might be squeezed in. Roth claps me once on the shoulder, an unusual gesture for him, then moves off to confer with the Inquisition agent who's receiving medici attention for his injuries. I take a last look at the scene. This hive won't soon forget what happened here, though ironically many of the public might never learn the full truth. It'll be spun as a security incident, an attempted coup by a corrupt noble foiled by quick Arbites action. The involvement of a demon will be buried in classified reports for fear of spreading panic or suspicion. The average Imperial citizen will never know how close they came to a citywide catastrophe or damnation of their very souls. But I know. Sekara knows. And the Arbites who fell here gave their lives in service to that thankless ideal, protecting the people, even if the people never know how or why. That's the part of this life that is hardest. Not the fighting or the fear, but the thanklessness. We stand guard in the shadows, and our triumphs and sacrifices rarely see the light of recognition. But we don't do it for gratitude or glory. We do it because someone must, because without the rule of the Emperor's law, humanity would devour itself in madness and terror. And we're not unique on thousands of worlds. In countless hive cities, there are others like me doing the same grim work tonight. Most of those battles in the shadows will remain unsung, just like ours. The Adeptus Arbites stands eternal, ever sacrificing, ever vigilant, so that the Imperium of man does not collapse under its own weight. We are a thin black line of law drawn against the encroaching chaos. I heave a tired sigh, bones aching from the night's exertions. Another day, another victory carved out at dreadful cost. As I start to head back to the idling Arbites transport that will return me to the precinct, a thought strikes me. I pause and cast my gaze upward, past the torn dome of the estate, toward the faint outline of the hive's upper spire against the brightening sky. It's been a long night, but dawn has come. We held the line. In the end, that's all there is for an Arbites Judge. Hold the line, no matter the odds, no matter the sacrifice. Hold it so that billions can live one more day under the Emperor's light, whether they know it or not. It's mid-morning by the time I finally return to the precinct fortress. The adrenaline of the night has long since burned off, leaving only bone-deep fatigue. The wounded have been tended, the dead accounted for. Sekara is stable in the Medicae ward. I made sure to check on her the moment we landed. She was unconscious, pale against the infirmary cot, but the medics assure me she'll make a full recovery. I allowed myself a rare moment to squeeze her shoulder and murmur that she did well. She probably didn't hear me, but that's fine. Now, in the quiet of a report chamber, I sit before a picked slate, staring at the cursor blinking on the after-action form. The room is small, sparsely furnished, just a desk, a lumen strip buzzing overhead, and shelves of legal tomes. My armor sits on a rack in the corner, still scuffed and blood-stained. I haven't even had the chance to clean it yet. I'm back in a simple duty uniform, which feels strangely light after so many hours encased in carapace. I take a sip of recaf from a tin cup, its contents long gone lukewarm. The taste is awful, bitter and overbrewed, leaving a film on my tongue. But it keeps me awake a little longer. On the slate, I've typed up the basics: incident summaries, casualty lists, evidence indices. The dry, bureaucratic language feels absurd after what we've been through. How do I elegantly phrase neutralized a greater warp entity performing a homicidal ballet? The administratum clerks will probably think it's a transcription error. I shake my head with a tired smirk and continue typing. Line by line, I reduce the night's heroics and horrors into numbered sections and terse sentences. It's almost comedic. We save a hive from heresy and mass slaughter, and now I have to fill out Form 39, B subsection 12 for use of excessive force and unsanctioned psychic phenomena encountered. And of course, there's the matter of Lord Calderon. His part in this will be sealed under inquisitorial authority. In my report, he's simply Subject Alpha, now in Ordo Hereticus custody. The Highborn will gossip about his sudden disappearance, but officially it will be as if he never existed. Such is the Emperor's justice for the mighty, swift and silent. I recall seeing him earlier when Inquisition agents led him away in shackles and a black hood. The once proud lord was crying and sputtering protests, all dignity gone. No doubt he fears the Emperor's judgment more keenly now than ever, and rightly so. With a few final keystrokes, I finish the document. The peaked slate asks for authorization and thumbprint. I press my thumb to the scanner, watching as the eagle seal of the Arbites stamps itself onto the report. Case closed. Setting the slate aside, I lean back and rub my eyes. Out the narrow slit of a window, I can see the hive skyline. The sun is fully up now, shafts of light cutting through the perpetual smog. This hive will go on today as it did yesterday. Most of its teeming millions will never know how close they came to anarchy and damnation. They'll trudge to their manufactorums, line up for their rations, mutter complaints about the Arbites under their breath perhaps, unaware that last night a few of us stood in the breach to keep their world from falling apart. And that's okay. They don't need to know. They shouldn't know, frankly. We endure the nightmares so they can sleep a little easier, however ignorant and ungrateful they may be. I drain the last dregs of my recaf and stand. My reflection in the window faintly overlaps the view of the city beyond. I see a tired, hollow-eyed man in an Arbites uniform, and behind him the endless hive towers and haze. Both of us, reflections of duty in our own way. A thought occurs to me: why do I do this? Why do any of us do this, day in and day out, with so little thanks? I push the thought away. It's a juvenile question, the kind a fresh cadet asks before they've seen the true face of humanity's sins. I know why we do it. Because someone must. Because the law is the only thing holding this decay together. Because without the Emperor's justice, there is nothing but darkness. I retrieve my battered armor and begin the slow walk toward the quartermaster for repairs and cleaning. My shift technically ended hours ago, but an Arbites Judge's work is rarely neatly contained in a schedule. There's always another case, another crisis on the horizon. I could grab a couple hours of rack time. Maybe I will. But even as I consider it, a part of me is already thinking ahead of the paperwork to process for those cultist detainees, of the debrief with the marshal, of the increased patrols we'll need in the lower hive to snuff out any embers of this conspiracy that remain. No, justice never truly sleeps, and neither can we for long. I pass by a wall in the main corridor engraved with names. The honor roll of the fallen. Already a scribe is at work carving the fresh entries from last night. I pause and read a few of the names under his chisel, committing them to memory. Severin, Lion, Velas. I remember how Severin was always the first through a door, and how he fell pursuing that damned sorcerer without fear. Lion lugged that heavy stubber with a grin and held the line until the demon took him. Velas never missed a shot. He died trying to get a clear bead on the fiend to save the rest of us. Each name is a story of duty and sacrifice. The scribe finishes a letter and gives me a respectful nod. I return it and move on. As I near the barracks, I hear the muffled voices of the next shift mustering, getting ready to head out into the hive. Life goes on. Duty goes on. I allow myself one last moment of solitude in the hallway. I inhale the filtered air deeply and square my shoulders. Time to shake off the fatigue and put on the faceless helm once more. There are billions of people out there relying on law and order to keep their world turning, even if they don't know it. And there are few indeed willing and able to enforce that order. But that's fine. The Adeptus Arbites exists for this very purpose. I exist for this purpose. Another day, another riot, another cult, another trial. Whatever comes, I'll be there, delivering the Emperor's judgment with shotgun and gavel, with steel and resolve. It's not a happy life, nor a gentle one, but it's mine. And if I had to live it all over again, I would, because in the final tally, when all arguments are made and all threats silenced, one truth remains. Without the law, without justice, humanity is doomed. I glance once more towards the distant glow of the hive city through the window slit, then slide my helmet back over my head. The auto senses blink on, and I become the impassive figure of authority once more, a lone arbitrator ready to step into the fray anew. Story complete, report filed, criminals punished, world saved for another day. And yet, tomorrow, it will start again. A never-ending cycle. I tighten my gauntlets and step forward, ready to meet it. After all, this is what I do. This is what I am. I am Judge Varus Drax of the Adeptus Arbites, and I am the law,